Chapter 32. Fire in the Forge. The heat of the forge swirled like a living beast, breathing with every exhalation of the bellows. The air burned, thick, heavy, filled with the dry metallic scent of incandescent steel. Alden, his shirt clinging to his body with sweat, watched Coram as the dwarf paced around the anvil with steady steps, like a master surveying a sacred temple. The dwarf picked up a small, dark block, no larger than a clenched fist, and dropped it into Alden's hands. The young man felt its weight as though he had been handed a piece of the mountain itself. "This," Coram said in a deep voice, "is Durkan steel." Alden frowned. "Durkan?" Coram nodded. "The most valuable alloy in all of Tharzul. It can only be made here, and not every smith is capable of working it. The main components are already rare, and the missing ones we must seek far beyond these mountains. Every piece is precious, and if it is wasted..." He fixed Alden with a hard stare. "It is an offense." Brum, the massive guard at the door, folded his arms. "A serious offense," he added, "and a shame that stains the reputation of the smith who allows it." Coram nodded, his expression growing even more severe. "If you ruin that metal, you will have squandered something that cannot be replaced. This is not like breaking common iron. It is throwing months of labor into the fire, caravans that risk their lives, and the honor of a master smith." The moral weight settled on Alden almost as heavily as the physical one. Coram went on. "Some of the finest weapons and armor in this city are made from Durkan. And yes," he leaned closer to Alden, "even several ancient relics were forged with it. This is not a metal for beginners." Alden drew a slow breath. "What am I supposed to do?" Coram pointed to the anvil. "A knife." Alden blinked. "Just a knife?" he asked, genuinely surprised. Coram frowned as though the question itself were absurd. "A good Durkan knife is not just anything. If you forge it poorly, it will be worth no more than a common tool, an irreparable waste. If you forge it well..." His eyes gleamed with pride. "You will have passed your trial." Brum snorted. "And Coram doesn't accept mediocre trials." The master smith raised a thick finger. "You have 10 days." Alden stared at him. 10? That's a long time for a knife." "If you think it's long," Coram replied with a crooked smile, "then you still don't understand the metal you're holding." He turned away and added, "You have 10 days, not one more. When you're finished, I'll know whether you're worth the trouble or whether I should send you back to the streets." Alden tightened his grip on the piece of Durkan. "I'll do everything I can." Coram glanced back over his shoulder. "You're the first human I've ever allowed to work this metal. Don't make me regret that decision." Alden felt a chill run through him, but also, for the first time, a new fire kindling in his chest. The cold wind of dawn brushed the cliffside as Kyle, Lyanna, and Dren climbed through twisted roots and slick stones. They didn't speak during the ascent. There was no need. Each of them knew what was at stake. At the summit, Lyanna stopped. The view opened before them. The cracked wall, the dark camp of the Order, and the Tower of Lumara rising like a gray fang tearing through the low clouds. Kale scanned the horizon, inhaled, and said, "Now." Lyanna closed her eyes. A brief green glimmer crossed her gaze. Far away, riding the cold air currents, the primordial kite answered. Ether took flight and began tracing wide circles around the tower, a perfect, silent dance that only those who knew what to look for could read. Dren set his jaw. "Valor will have seen it." Kale nodded. "Then it begins." In the camp, chaos erupted as the first rebel arrows cut through the air, striking tents, posts, and shields. The clash of metal, shouted orders, and the sudden organization of ranks echoed along the wall. Riven appeared in the inner courtyard without haste, as though the attack were little more than a minor inconvenience. His dark armor seemed to absorb the light. His presence imposed silence without a single gesture. A lieutenant arrived, breathless. "Commander, we're engaging them on the eastern edge. There are more of them than we expected." Riven watched the forest, barely visible through the morning mist. "Interesting," he murmured. "They arrived sooner than I anticipated." Then, without looking away, "Mobilize the main contingent. I want everyone pursuing them. Encircle them. If possible, bring some back alive. The lieutenant hesitated. All of them, my lord? Even those assigned to the tower? The sentries stay, nothing more. He paused. I will personally watch the prisoner. The soldier nodded, trembling. Riven wasted no time. He walked toward the tower, unhurried and certain, as though every step were a verdict already passed. From above, Kale and the others watched nearly the entire order surge out of the camp in aggressive formation. Dren let out a low whistle. Never thought I'd see the Ravens run like that. Kale didn't smile. Something in him remained tense. Let's go, before they come back. They descended the slope and circled the wall. Two isolated guards stood watch. Dren slipped between them like a shadow and silenced them with swift, fluid movements. They took the black cloaks. Lyanna pulled hers over her face and Kale stepped protectively in front of her. They entered through a side door unseen. The interior of the tower greeted them with a heavy, almost ancient silence. A wide hall opened before them, dimly lit by low torches that cast long shadows along the walls. At its center, dominating the space, stood a colossal statue carved from gray stone. An elderly mage in flowing robes, one hand extended toward the void, the other gripping a staff barely worn by time. Lyanna paused. It's Lumara, she whispered, the ancient mage, the one who built this tower. Kyle lifted his gaze. For a heartbeat, he stood frozen, as if something within the sculpture had caught him from the inside. Around the statue's neck hung a stone medallion carved with a clear symbol, a tree with intertwined roots that seemed to pulse beneath the flickering light. He didn't know why, but his chest tightened. There was something in that symbol, something he recognized without understanding. Kyle, Lyanna whispered, worried, but he kept staring, until Dren struck his arm, sharp and quick. Do you want us all dead? The mercenary hissed. Come on, dreamer. This isn't the time to stand around like an idiot. Cal blinked and tore his eyes from the statue, still haunted by the unsettling sensation that it had been watching him return to himself. They moved on, deeper into the cold, narrow corridors. Spiral staircases climbed into darkness. The echo of hurried footsteps sounded from above. Halfway up, a group of soldiers came rushing down. The three pressed themselves flat against the wall, hoods lowered. The men passed without suspicion. But on the next level, 3 guards stood firm before a reinforced door. When they saw the group, one raised a hand. Halt! No one passes! Direct order from the commander! Kyle tried to walk past. We're here to reinforce. No one! The guard snapped, stepping closer. Another guard's eyes fixed on Lyanna. Why are you bringing that woman? She shouldn't be here. The silence tightened. Kyle saw Lyanna shrink the slightest fraction, seeking refuge within her cloak, a crack of uncertainty in her usual composure. Dren's hands tightened around his daggers. Where did you come from? The guard pressed. Why aren't you in the courtyard? Dren exhaled a whisper. Enough! He lunged. 3 strikes, 3 bodies, 3 silences. The last guard let out a muffled groan before collapsing. Lyanna pressed her lips together. Kale placed his palm against the wooden door, ready to push. This is it. He opened it. The room smelled of dust, stone, and confinement. A nearby torch cast long shadows across the walls, making everything feel narrower, more oppressive. Selenia stood near the bed, shackled to the floor with a heavy chain. Weariness marked her face, but not defeat. Her eyes lifted the instant the door opened, and in that same moment, the air seemed to freeze. Because beside her, motionless as a monolith of darkness, stood Riven. He did not speak. He did not move. His dark eyes, cold, inhuman, locked first onto Kale. Kyle froze. Memory struck him like a hammer. The mountains of Thalin, the biting cold, the dark steel, the defeat. The man who had nearly killed him stood there, 3 steps away. Dren felt a shiver crawl up his spine. He didn't know Riven, but something in his presence, in that predatory stillness, awakened every instinct of danger he possessed. Lyanna took an involuntary step back. The bond with Selenia vibrated inside her like a taut string, stretched between anguish and hope. Selenia, upon seeing them, caught her breath. Her eyes softened for a single instant, as if Lyanna's presence pulled her back into the world of the living. But she did not speak. None of them did. The tension was absolute, a blade held in suspension. Riven inclined his head just slightly, his expression unreadable. The three intruders knew there was no turning back. The fight was about to begin.